Everyone, and welcome to yet another video of mine. This time around we're gonna wander into uncharted territory with a reaction video. We'll see how this goes. Normally I'm not too fond of this type of content, but I figured since it is Napoleon and I do play a lot of Napoleon Total War, someone might be interested in my take on this. But the main reason I think I wanted to make a comment on this, that I've been seeing a lot of people coming at it from just kind of the historical perspective and not looking at it so much from a movie perspective, in terms of this is most likely not just a one-to-one A to B kind of retelling of Napoleon's life just from sort of an objective standpoint. This is a movie and it has a point of view, and I think we'll go into that as we continue watching here. But let's go ahead and start this. We start off with a quick view going through some quick points at the movie. So it looks like he's in Egypt right here, and he goes through. We've got some battle, Moscow, crowning himself emperor, and let's see where we stop for the first time. So we start off really early in his career. As far as I've seen, this goes all the way to Waterloo. So he goes all the way from Revolution, all through all the coalitions, and finally ending sort of around Waterloo, at least what you see in the trailer here. The only thing that's really missing is, I guess, his schooling and the artillery school, but besides that, or at least that was not entertaining enough to put in the trailer. And I do believe we have Marie Antoinette about to augment her height, become a little bit shorter. Unfortunately for her, they started kind of in the wrong end. And then we've got, very early here, Napoleon is taking command of the defense of the revolution. He's kind of brutally putting down a huge counter-revolutionary movement that's coming in. As I recall, they were quite outnumbered. We were talking about thousands upon thousands of counter-revolutionaries, royalists, really tired with the bloodshed and the chaos, really, of the revolution. And they wanted to return order. However, we've got Napoleon here in a spectacular way doing some crowd control with cannons. So we can see kind of a spectacular scene here where they're using canister for crowd control and absolutely blasting the crowds. Very much a force multiplier. So even though Napoleon has soldiers on his side, being outnumbered by so many counter-revolutionaries, a force multiplier like a cannon firing canister is definitely something to think about. I'm not going to sit here and recommend that you use canister on crowd control for any kind of crowd control. So we got, again here, very early on in the career, we can see a lot of these revolutionary uniforms. I really like it. We got different kinds of pants on the different troops. So civilian striped pants, the early revolutionary hats. We got this one right here. Got the tiger striped, or is it, tiger? Is it tiger? It's animal print. Which is always tacky. So I'd never really liked... in one way I like the helmet, in another way I don't like it, just because animal print is so tacky. But I like the fact that they seem to be going through the entire repertoire of Napoleon, and we get to see a lot of different kind of uniforms throughout this. And I mean, we're gonna go back to this, but he's seeing here, obviously talking to commanders, higher up commanders. So we'll go back to that. Also, we got some grenadiers right there. Continues on. Get to see a little bit of get the Romance side of Napoleon, standing a little bit there in the corner. Kind of a little, almost like feeling out of place a little bit. at the party here. It's not not in the middle, bumping his fist. He's kind of in the corner here, and he's approached by, I imagine it's Josephine. But we'll continue on here. We got battle. So yeah, maybe I should let Napoleon say it.
I led the French victory at Toulon.
So Napoleon wasn't in complete control, or he wasn't the overall commander at Toulon, but he definitely made a lot of effort at this as the artillery commander, getting cannon and be able to set up these cannon positions to bombard the city and so on. So he definitely pulled a lot of weight there, but he's kind of saying, you know, I am the reason, like I am the hero of this battle. And probably what we saw earlier there when he's talking to his commander is kind of swaggering off after kind of telling them off, like, I did this, you guys don't know what you're doing. So I think really my premise for this video is the fact that we shouldn't look at this as a one-to-one A to B kind of retelling. It's a retelling from Napoleon's perspective himself. So he's going to be embellishing, he's going to be you know, he's going to retell it from his perspective. So he's going to be quite boastful, and we're not going to get the, you know, like a documentary type thing of what happened at these battles.
What is your name?
And obviously there he's firing at the fleet. The royalists at Toulon called on the Anglo-Spanish fleet to aid them, and they of course were really happy in aiding them because Toulon held I think 1/3 of the French Navy at the time. So being able to take control or possibly destroy that would have been wonderful. And yeah, we're not gonna go ahead and talk too much about that, but clearly we got Napoleon here, and he's firing out onto the fleet out here. Looks like they managed to get a critical shot. Maybe they are firing, although it doesn't seem like it. There doesn't seem to be any sort of what I'm like what's it called, like fireballs, basically. Not fireballs, basically when they heat up the cannonball until it becomes red glowing hot, put that in the cannon and fire on a ship to set it ablaze. And maybe something like that has happened where it's hit the gunpowder stores. Seems that quite a few of these ships are burning. I don't think the British fleet lost that many fleet or ships, which in this case we see catastrophic fires on a lot of these ships. So again, probably Napoleon's retelling of it. I could definitely see how this would be sort of how the movie starts with him kind of retelling some biographer or something of the stories, and then maybe we'll see alternatives from maybe other people's perspective of it. But yeah.
What is your name?
Napoleon.
Napoleon already has quite high thoughts of himself.
Napoleon.
And we end up in Egypt, so we've got his campaigns in Egypt and Syria. Very magnificent here with the Sphinx and also the pyramids. So here's another thing where I was talking about Napoleon embellishing on himself. He called this battle is the Battle of the Pyramids. However, the Battle of the Pyramids is what Napoleon named it. It wasn't actually taking place at the pyramids. It was actually taking place 15 kilometers away, which I don't know what that is in imperial or American 2000 American football fields or God knows what. But it makes it a lot more spectacular, of course, where we got Murad Bey and the Egyptian army aligned up here. A lot of infantry. I mean, the Egyptian army, as far as I'm concerned, or as far as I remember, their strong point was their cavalry, and they had a lot of it. And so we would be seeing French squares with cannons set in them and firing on the the cavalry charges of the Egyptians, as that's really their strong points. But again, going back to this, like Napoleon is embellishing. We've got a battle 15 kilometers away from the pyramids. Given the time of day or the weather, you might not have even been able to see the pyramids, even though they're very tall. You might not have been able to see them from that kind of distance, even though desert is pretty flat, isn't it? But yeah, barely seeing the pyramids, but he calls it Battle of the Pyramids, and in his retelling here,
For greatness.
he even fires at the pyramids. So we get another one of these. As far as I know, I don't think Napoleon ever commanded a cavalry charge, especially onto... It looks like it's Austrians, so I want to say that it is possibly... And also, again, kind of revolutionary uniform. So I'm guessing this is the Italian campaign, so it goes a little bit back and forth in the trailer here in terms of chronological order. But Napoleon seemingly leading a cavalry charge onto Austrians. Seems like this is movie spectacle more than anything, because if we look here at the Austrian line, we can see that they've got a thinner line here in front that is firing, but then they've got actually one line here backing that up, and then another one, and we can see that it actually goes 4 lines deep. And he's charging with cavalry straight on to this. Now someone's calling me, ruining the video. I'm not going to answer that right now. Away with you. So yeah, I wasn't gonna. I said that I wasn't gonna nitpick through the historical part, and I was gonna take into account the movie and sort of the movie perspective. But yeah, this seems very spectacle. That they charging straight onto this very thick formation. We got Napoleon coming back from exile. Nothing really to be said here. But again, like a little bit of the myth Napoleon is telling about himself. You know, I came back and everyone rallied around me, which they did. I mean, it is Napoleon. Of course, I think he has, if anyone, he has the right to embellish himself. Well, he doesn't need to, but he, if anyone.
Shall we vote?
Shall we vote? He goes ahead and, you know, this is the I was about to say coup attempt, but obviously it wasn't an attempt because they succeeded. And Napoleon later on, it kind of goes directly after the vote and directly onto this. The span of time in between this is a lot greater, but obviously this is a trailer and they want flashy things. Going back to my current campaign in Napoleon Total War, where I'm playing as the Papal States, we got Napoleon here crowning himself, putting the crown on himself there. So going back to that campaign where I'm playing as the Pope, of course, this is one of the grievances of the Pope, among many others, of the how the revolutionaries are treating the Catholic clergy, although Napoleon wasn't as sort of harsh against them. So we got what looks like Waterloo. I gotta nitpick a little bit here, I guess, if we go back, because I mean, it once again movie spectacle, but they set their lines just off their camp, and it seems like they're storming forward from there, and God knows where the enemy is out here, but it's quite far. So I don't know why they've gone ahead and depicted this. Like the camp would be not they wouldn't have set up this close to camp and move forward onto the enemy, or not in the way I think it's depicted here anyways. But it's a slight nitpick.
This vermin has held the world.
Oh yeah, you can actually see here, because it looks like this basically the two camp there, and they're firing back and forth at each other. Which wouldn't really be the case here. We can see some British troops hanging out in the foreground. One thing that I do, I think I mentioned the old Napoleon series that was done in France. It also depicts a lot of Napoleon's life, and obviously there's going to be parallels to this. But one of the things, because it is a French movie, the British uniforms in that movie, and when they picked the Battle of Waterloo, which they don't really depict all that much, the British uniforms look god awful, as I recall from that. Especially like the Scottish one. I think that, as I recall what little they showed of Waterloo in that series, obviously the French, so I guess they're gonna have to take a dig at the English, but the way that they're kind of portrayed there, and there's a quite portly Scotsman running around with a very unsightful uniform.
Has held the world hostage.
But I mean, it looks really nice and spectacular. Obviously not on the same level as we got the old Waterloo movie, where they've had, you know, hundreds of thousands of people taking part in that one. Well, not maybe multiple hundreds of thousands, but they had thousands and thousands upon tens of thousands of people. So we do not get really that scale, but we do get a really good representation here of what it would have looked like. I do think it would have been, the ground would have probably been trampled up a bit more, but now again I'm going into this nitpicking, obviously for reasons you wouldn't want to trample up the entire area.
Hostage.
In terms of movie anyways.
Egotism and his lack of
And we've got not much more to say here. I think we've got one more battle coming up, which the one that I've seen most kind of nitpickings coming at from sort of a historical crowd.
Forces against me.
So this battle right here. So what we got is Austrians marching forward somewhere in the snow.
Come with this if you don't succeed.
And we got cavalry riding as well. We got Napoleon. Apparently, what I can gather from this, it looks like they've made like a fake camp around here, but Napoleon has stationed all his troops ready in this forest, and they're looking out over what is a frozen lake, which the Austrians
We are discovered.
are advancing. And as we see here, he realizes, and they start firing cannon, and a lot of Austrians drown. So, one many, and I think they're correct in assuming that this is the Battle of Austerlitz. And there was supposedly a lot of Austrians that ran through a frozen lake that opened up and swallowed a few of them. But that was, the battle was over at that point. It was the Austrians retreating away, like the battle was way over here. So this one seems like this is the one that I think probably breaks kind of the most with sort of the depiction of the sort of the other battles and so on. There might be a small discrepancies here, but here's a pretty big one. But as in the trailer, at least, we get the impression that this rather minor incident that might not have been very much at all, at the very last bit of the battle is over. The battle is over. The Austrians and the Russians have been lost. But I think this is part of, again, going back to the Napoleon embellishing himself. It's kind of hard to retelling to the sort of for propaganda purpose and so on, the way the Battle of Austerlitz worked, how he split the Allied army and won that way, and sort of the brilliant maneuver. It's kind of hard to explain that in a way which you can convey to the public. So I think this, for propaganda purpose, this bit, like almost like nature is on the side of French, like God is on the side of French, like the lake opened up and swallowed the Austrians. So I think that's what it is. Like, it's kind of propaganda. It's Napoleon retelling the story from his perspective. So we don't get like the accurate depiction of the Battle of Austerlitz. We get sort of an embellished version on something that he can, in this case, I think, kind of as propaganda, sell to the populace home in Paris. Like, it's so much easier to say, you know, the ice opened up and the Austrians all drowned and we won the battle. Then, you know, we maneuvered like this. We had timed perfectly that the reinforcements would turn up and shore up the right flank, you know, all of these kind of maneuvers that were crucial to the Battle of Austerlitz. So instead they're going for this. This is at least my interpretation. It could be that this very much is sort of like Braveheart's Battle of Stirling Bridge that doesn't even have a bridge in it. So it could be very much that he's taken very high liberties with depicting the brilliant victory at Austerlitz this way, in sort of comically shambles, really. But this is the way, at least my charitable interpretation, that it is a retelling from Napoleon's perspective, in a way where he's possibly telling someone of this that might not have the sort of understandings otherwise.
I'm the first to admit when I make a mistake. I simply never do.
Now when I actually saw it, if we go back here, you can actually... I didn't really see that the first time. I just saw a bunch of Austrians. So we have Austrian Grenadier here, and Austrian infantrymen, but we do have Russian Grenadiers right here, or maybe even Guard, Russian Guard with these plumes. So you can I mean, it's kind of a clear case. We might even have what looks like a Grenzer uniform here, blue pants, the brown uniform, and the hat there. So it might be Grenzer. So we do have a lot of different uniforms, which is really cool here. Probably a lot, possibly a lot of actual reenactors taking part in this. And obviously, I mean, as a movie spectacle, it is, you know, it is wonderful. Although maybe not super accurate in its retelling. It's like, I mean, Braveheart is an entertaining movie. Is it good history? No, but
I simply never do.
I mean, the thing is, like, I feel like oftentimes you don't really need to embellish the actual history of stuff like this, because the history itself is just as good. And there we have that. So that's kind of, I don't know how long I've made this video, maybe too long, but anyways, I got to dress up in uniform, and I got to tell you a little bit about history and a little bit about movies. So in conclusion, I think this is the point of view is from Napoleon, of him kind of retelling it, and he's embellishing and aggrandizing, and maybe that's how it should be seen, rather than seeing it as a one-to-one A to B historical retelling of of Napoleon's life. And so with that, I will keep you no longer. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and hopefully I'll see you guys for the next one. Bye.